G'day and welcome to the Pursuit of Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Rosie Burrows, and I'm on a journey to find my freedom so that I can help you do exactly the same. Join me each week as I share the stories of everyday people who've found their own paths to freedom. I'm not going to focus on job titles and accolades because I don't care about that stuff, and neither should you. I want to uncover what truly makes you tick. Who are you when you step away from society's expectations and follow your heart? I still haven't figured it out yet. Have you? Either way, buckle up because it's going to be one hell of a ride. Hello, and welcome to episode 59 of the podcast. This is a follow-on from the episode I dropped on Monday about you don't know if you don't ask. So here I am practicing what I preach. Here's my question to you. Is this episode worth 9 cents to you? Is there an episode on this podcast that you have listened to and you thought, yeah, I'd pay 9 cents for that? I'm hoping you say yes, because if every single person who has ever listened to the podcast paid 9 cents, that would be enough to cover the cost of what I pay each year to run the podcast. Just 9 cents. Isn't that wild? I was sitting down doing some sums. So if you haven't gathered, this episode's going to be about money. It can be uncomfortable, but you know what? Who gives a crap? We need to talk about it. We need to be more open about money. And money's been on my mind lately because I don't have a traditional job. My earnings are limited. And as I release more and more episodes on the podcast and I've increased my release schedule, I'm spending more and more time on the podcast. 20 to 25 hours a week. More really, but let's give a modest kind of estimate there. But I'm not getting paid. And in fact, I'm losing money. I pay for subscriptions, I pay for hosting, for editing, for the website, all little bits and pieces. I also have to pay for Starlink, so satellite internet, so I can do these interviews. I've only included half the cost of that subscription because, let's face it, I do watch Netflix on it too, right? But that subscription is $195 a month. Whoa. This stuff isn't cheap. So of the rough numbers I kind of quickly went through before recording this, you should see my bloody spreadsheet. It is a mess. But the rough numbers I was doing, $5,082.99 towards the podcast. Now, I used to do this a lot cheaper, but I have standards. The good thing is, I have the value trade agreement with PodMatch. So that is saving me $1,152 a year. There is no way I would be using this service if the cost of it wasn't being reimbursed to me. I'm so glad that I have access to this service because I'm getting amazing guests through it. And it's cool. I've negotiated a value trade. Very, very cool. Off that $5,082 figure, we also need to drop off half the cost of the Starlink because not all of that's for the podcast, right? So the figure we end up with is $2,760.99. This is Australian dollars, by the way. I think my biggest listener base is in the US. So for you guys, I will convert it for you. That is roughly 1,800 US. So a lot less, but still a lot of money. And I bring this up because I want to be brave. I want to ask you if you'll help support the show by sending a few dollars my way. That money will help me focus on the stuff that matters, rather than stressing about where money's going to come from for me to sustain this podcast. I can go all in on finding awesome guests, writing amazing material, and just serving you guys. It'll take a huge weight off. And that 9 cent figure I mentioned at the beginning, that's legit. I put all my formulas in. So let me give you the numbers. I was reluctant to share with you how many listeners I have because I wish it was more. But how silly is that? I'm going to celebrate it. I have had 541 people listen to the podcast since it launched in May last year. 541 people. And once you're listening to this is the 59th episode, but let's base it off 58 episodes. So if all of those 541 people paid for each episode they listened to, it would work out to 9 cents per episode per person, and that would cover the entire running cost. That huge figure of $2,760.99, if everybody paid 9 cents for each episode they listened to, be sorted. That blew my mind. The thing is, though, I know that not all those people listen to all the episodes, yeah? So let's do it this way. Maybe this is more realistic. There are 54 followers of this podcast. 54 followers. By the way, if you're not following, please hit the follow button. 54 followers. If each of those people was to pay for each episode, it would work out to be 88 cents per episode per person. For my US listeners, 54 cents. That would cover the cost of running the podcast. Isn't that wild? Like, this is wild to me. That's affordable, but it raises the question, should podcast hosts be asking their listeners to pay? I don't know. I don't pay for any podcasts. That concept is quite foreign, but when you think about it, a lot of work goes into these podcasts. More than you probably realize. If you don't have a podcast, there's a lot that goes into this. That can be another episode. It's a lot. Luckily, I love it. It's worth the annoying tasks because I love the interviews and I love the feedback I get. It works out in the end. But 88 cents. That's Australian cents. 54 US cents if each of my followers paid that each time they listen to an episode. The costs are covered. That seems pretty doable. Would you pay 88 cents? But then I thought, well, hey, Rosie, not every follower listens to every episode. So if I look at all the listens I've had, in the last 18 months, I've had 1,476 listens. So that's the number of times episodes have been played. And if I divide that by the 58 episodes that are out at the moment, on average, that is 25 episodes that are listened to. No, where did I get that number? I think I typed in the wrong number. There's 27, listens per episode. Then the numbers start going up. Okay, you would need $5.61 per episode. But that's getting a bit much. So where do you draw the line? I don't know. But I feel like 88 cents, pretty fair ask. So the question is, are you willing to give a bit of money to help me support the cost of running this show? I love it. I'm continuing it. I'm ramping it up. But as I do that and as the quality increases, the costs increase. And the challenge of not earning through the podcast is that it's losing money. I want that to change and I want to monetize in meaningful ways. So before you go, uh-oh, Rosie's going to start playing ads all through the episodes. No, I'm not. I really don't want to do that if I can avoid it. So the first thing I did was I did a value trade with PodMatch. That is saving me $1,152 a year. The second thing I'm doing is asking my audience, that's you, if you would be willing to pay some money. Optional, by the way. This isn't anything formal, and it's a pay what you want model. It's really cool. Go to thepursuitoffreedom.com.au/support and you'll see how I've set it up. It's nothing fancy, but essentially you type in the amount of money you want to give. I wanted to make the minimum 50 cents, but unfortunately the platform I use set the minimum to $1. So I'm sorry, you can't pay the 88 cents, but you can pay $1. And you can give just a one-off payment, or if you're feeling generous and if you're a super fan, I know there's a few of you out there, you can choose to make a monthly recurring payment. So for example, you might type in $5, $10, whatever it is, and set up a recurring payment to come out every month. So can I ask you to check that out? Are you willing to send me $1? Maybe more? I broke it down in terms of episodes, right? As low as 9 cents an episode if every one of my listeners paid per episode. Probably wishful thinking. So 88 cents is more of a reasonable target. Australian, by the way, that's 54 US cents. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Can you tell I'm excited? But also tired. It's 20 to 11 at night. But I have been just going around and around my head about this. And I thought, nah, Rosie, you need to record it. Be brave. Ask the question. I can't even see you guys. I can't even see your reactions. And I'm a little bit nervous. But can I say, as I continue to talk, I'm also getting excited because it makes me feel like, hey, Rosie, this is possible. The podcast is sustainable. The hard thing is I need your help. I can't do it on my own. I'm asking for your help. Anyway, back to this. I was just saying, I gave you the per episode figure, 88 cents per episode per follower. But if we make it simpler and stop the marketing, blah, 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 less than $1 an episode, blah, blah, blah. This is what it would work out to. All the listeners, if you paid $10.49 a month, that would cover it. No, I lie. That would cover a lot more than the running costs. Okay, listen to this. This is the other thing I did. I am all over the place, but you know what? I'm leaning into my neurodivergence here. The episode I recorded today, we touched on it. So anyway, you can catch that in the new year. It's with Nikki Lacroche, and it's amazing. I digress. This $10.49 a month figure, this would pay my salary. So I actually sat down and looked at how much money I'm losing by choosing a podcast instead of doing the job that I left last year. I was lecturing at a university. I was a course coordinator. So based off my average salary there, this is how much money I'm losing. So when you're in a job like that in Australia, you get paid 11% on top of your gross income towards your superannuation, which goes to your retirement. So including that figure, I'm losing out on $75,626.30 based on working between 20 to 25 hours a week. But the cool part is that figure could be covered with people paying $10.49 a month. By the way, in US dollars, that is, can you believe this? $6.81. That's wild. For $10.49 in Australian dollars, if all of my 541 listeners paid that each month, that'd be my salary. And in US dollars, what did I say it just was? $6.81. I want you to tell me, do you pay for any podcasts at the moment? I don't. I'm just going to be real. I don't. Part of that is I don't really have expendable income right now. Okay, but even if I did, it's a foreign concept to me. So I'm making a big ask of you here, even though it's a small amount of money, 88 cents. Most people could probably afford that, right? Not everybody. Shouldn't make assumptions. But it still feels weird because we don't traditionally pay for podcasts. So let me know. Send me a voice message, please. I haven't had any come through yet. Send me a voice message at my website. The link's going to be in the description. It's in the show notes of every single episode. Come on now. I feel like I need to give a prize to whoever sends in the first voicemail. And whoever makes the first donation to support the podcast, man, I'm going to celebrate so hard. And actually, I better share what my goal is. My goal by the end of the year is to raise $2,760. That's a scary figure to me. That's a lot. But actually, that's what I have paid for keeping this podcast going this year. There's my domain, there's the hosting of the website, the business registration, I need Zoom for it, I need Riverside, I need Descript, PodMatch, Starlink. It adds up. It really adds up. So that's my goal. I'm scared to put it out there because I'm like, Rosie, that's embarrassing. You're not going to reach it and everybody's going to know. You know what? Fuck that. I'm putting it out there and I'm not going to make a decision on your behalf. I'm not going to say no one will pay that. How would I know? Here I am asking, will you support the podcast? Go to thepursuitoffreedom.com.au/support and donate what you want. Minimum is $1. Just $1. Make all the difference in the world. It seriously would. And let me break it down this way. I feel like I'm not getting my message across clearly here, but that's okay. Asking questions is cumbersome, okay? I might practice this again, next year and be much more articulate, okay? But this is me just demonstrating to you what it's like, how awkward it can be, but also how exhilarating it can be to ask the question. So if each of my listeners, the 541 of you, if you gave $47.60, so let's just say $50 to round it up, just a lump payment, that'd cover the year of costs. So have you got enough value to pay $50? By the way, for the US audience, that's roughly $32. $32 for 18 months of content. What do you reckon? I don't know. Is anyone going to pay? I don't know. And can I just say I'm not paywalling this podcast. I want it to be free. However, I want people to have the option to support the show through money if they can and if they want to. Because I think it's important. At the end of the day, these things cost money. However, if you're not in a position to do that, there are other ways you can support the show. Word of mouth is huge in podcasting. So I want you to talk to somebody who you think could benefit from one of the episodes. One of my favorite episodes is the one where I talk about values. I think it's episode 3, but I will put the link in the description. I'll check it after I record this. That is a good one to share with people because it helps when you're making big decisions in life, which often at this time of year it's happening. You're beginning to think about the new year and all sorts of things coming up, goal setting, which I'm going to be doing a spicy episode on in the new year, by the way. But recommend an episode to somebody. That's a huge way to support the show. Make sure you're following the podcast. That's another huge way to support the show because it tells Apple and Spotify people are enjoying this show. It all matters. Leave the show a review. That's another free way you can support the show. If you're an Apple user, leave it on Apple Podcasts. That's very helpful. If you're not, or if it's too difficult, go to my website and leave a review. You don't have to log in. Super easy. Link in the description. And send me a voicemail. That's going to give me so much motivation. That's a huge way to support the show. So you got some options there, guys. If you are in a position to be able to give some money, that'd mean the world. If you're not in a position to do that, that's okay. It would mean the world if you follow the podcast, you share it with somebody, and you send me a voicemail. So there's 4 different things you can do there. Give me some money, follow the podcast, share the podcast, and send me a voicemail. Which one are you going to do? I know some of you have done most of those. Some of you have done none. Which one is it going to be? I want you to let me know. What are your thoughts? Are my episodes worth 9 cents an episode? What are they worth? How do you put a worth on something like that? I'm going to bring this up actually on a new podcast I'm launching with my friend Ruler. We ask each other the big questions. I think I'm going to ask this one about, should we pay for podcasts? It's a contentious issue. As a host, I'm going, well, a bit of money would be nice. But as a listener, I'm like, I don't want to pay for that. I pay for enough things. What do you think? Are you willing to make a one-off payment to my podcast? Don't know. I feel like this is a community and I would like to support you guys as well. But I don't know what you need support with. So let me know. This has been a very long-winded episode. I don't know if it made any sense, but the take-home message here is you don't know if you don't ask. Listen to the last episode, episode 58, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I spoke about it in there. You don't know if you don't ask. And here is me demonstrating in all my awkwardness how to ask, how to get brave and how to ask. I didn't script it because that's not my style, but that meant I went all over the place. I have no idea if you remember any of the figures. I don't even know if I do. But here I am, I asked. And I'm proud of myself for that. This could fail. That scares me. It won't feel great. But I would have tried. And I think that's important. I would like to try because I want podcasting to be my full-time thing. I've recently decided that. I want it to be my full-time thing. So I am exploring creative ways of how to monetize it. If I can get help from my audience to cover the running costs, that is a huge help. I've already got a value trade going on with PodMatch. That is a huge help in covering running costs. So now it's like, okay, how can, after covering the running costs, how can I get a salary out of this? How can I live off it? I don't have the answer to that. I don't want to paywall this, like I said. I'm not going to do that. So how do I do it? How do I get sponsorships, perhaps, but without running ads in the podcast? I don't know. I'm getting creative, and this is the first or second way, that I'm getting creative. The first was talking to Alex Sanfilippo from PodMatch and agreeing on a value trade. And the second is me asking you, hey, are you willing to donate to the podcast? Is this episode worth 9 cents to you? I hope so. That's 3 US cents. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to catch you next week. It will be an interview with Jet Van Wyk. She is very, very cool. Lots to share. She lives in Bali and is making an absolute mozza. So tune in next week to hear that one. It's really good. And I'm so excited to keep these cool interviews coming out. I still haven't heard from you though. What do you think about this 2 episodes a week thing? What are you thinking? Are you liking it? It's good for me, but if you guys don't like it, what's the point? Let me know. And I'll catch you next week.